Welcome back, everyone, to Parks Racing for Let's Go Racing. Time for our feature segment today. And as we mentioned in the opening, the passing of Hall of Fame trainer Walter Reese, and a gentleman who certainly was very close to Walter, and that's Tony Black. And Tony, thank you for coming on to the show and talking to us about Walter. You knew him very well, very close. Tell us about Walter Reese, the man.
Well, Walter Reese, the man, was, like you say, very close to me. He wasn't just a client or someone I rode for many, many years. He was a second father to me. You know, he has 5 other children, Judy, Sharon, Timmy, Jennifer, and Alex, his stepson, and me. But Walter, what really stood out in my mind, and I was so glad I got to see him before he passed, and Cynthia's such a wonderful person. She brought him home to the farm before he passed. Right. But when I went to the hospital to see him, he knew I was there, because I always would give him a yell in his ear and say, "Walter, it's me, I'm here at the barn." Well, I was here at the hospital, and I gave him a kiss on his cheek, and he acknowledged it in a way that he could. But when in 1990, what really stands out in my mind, in 1990, when I got sober for the first time, you know, and I had some bad years of experience of not being dependable and not being the rider I should have been. I went to 2 people when I came back in January, February of '91. I said, "Listen, Walter," and the other person was Bob Kamak. I said, I'm serious. I want to get started back in the business. I really need some help." And both of them had the same response. Walter, they said, "Just come to the barn, get on some horses. We'll find something for you right away." And never listen to the naysayers. You know, he always stood by me. He never listened to the people who says, "What are you riding him for? He'll be messing up in no time at all." Never listened to that. He was a loyal customer, but like I said, more than a customer, a second father.
Tony, he won 6 training titles here during his time, one of the great trainers, one of the great horsemen here at the racetrack. Back in the earlier days before I got here, I did have some time while he was here, but what made him such a good horseman? Well,
I'll tell you what, Walter always had the philosophy, you know, he would look at him, few things he taught me. He would always say, "You know what, Tone, conformation, if they could run, conformation doesn't stop them from running." So he would look at a horse in that respect.
Tony, let's talk about the 1996 Pennsylvania Derby with Devil's Honor, and of course Mike Smith with the horse Formal Gold. That was a heavy favorite, but of course you were able to get the job done with Devil's Honor. What did that mean to you to win that race for Walter?
Well, it meant so much, because we took Devil's Honor the year before and won the Cradle Stakes. We knew he was, you know, a distance horse, and that day that we ran Devil's Honor here, Walter took another horse to River Downs, to Just a Cat, to run in the Cradle Stakes. So he wasn't here that day. And Cynthia saddled the horse, and Cynthia, I think, was down as trainer that day. And Cynthia and Walter was a great combination. You know, they balanced each other out. But it was so rewarding to win that race. And, you know, Mike Smith was here for a few derbies, and a couple derbies ago he was talking about it to the kids in the jocks room, and he had the kids cracking up. He said, "Here I was, I'm on Formal Gold, the favorite in the race." He says, "And Black did to me what I'm used to doing to riders." So went around him, coming around the turn, he carried me out a little bit, dropped back into the fence. Looked like I was going to get past him, and he held me off, opened up on me. He says, "I'm used to doing that, not used to having that done to me." But, you know, I also got to give some credit. I watched what Roy Smith did with the track that day. You know, and let's be honest, it's important to know what the track bias might be for a race. And I called Roy earlier that day. I says, "Roy, it looked like you graded the track out." I says, "Fence looks like it might be okay today." He says, "It's golden, Black, it's golden." So we didn't get too far off of the fence. So we had a little edge there, but Devil's Honor was really a nice horse. In fact, he was our horse that we were going to run in the Kentucky Derby. We finished 3rd in the Oklahoma Derby, won the prep to it, but he got hurt in the Oklahoma Derby. So we didn't run him in the Kentucky Derby.
Let's move to one other topic. Horse of the Year. Dick and I like to bat this around. You got Justify, who won the Triple Crown this year, and you got Accelerate, who has a heck of a resume under his belt. How do you see it?
Well, you know, I'm old school. Don't want to tell you my age, you know, but I started riding in '70. Galloped my first horse in '67. But I'm old school, and I'm leaning towards the horse that wins the 3rd Premier classic races in the world. You know, Derby, Preakness, Belmont means so much. And I know Breeders' Cup is such an important day in racing, but it came well after the Derby history of the Derby. So I'm just a 5 fan.
Well, Tony, thank you for, again, spending some time with us and talking about really one of the great trainers that we've had a chance to cross paths with here at Parks, Walter Reese. We're saddened at his passing, but of course we celebrate his life, and thank you for joining us today.
Well, I hope you're listening, Walt, because you know I love you, and I give you a big kiss every time you left me.